I thought it might be useful to make a couple of videos just about editing the 2D images that we cut from our model. We looked at in class the difference between the selection when we select our objects and use the Make2D command. If we include the hidden elements, we are going to see quite a bit more information that really is not the information that we want. So I've gone ahead and edited some of the information, and what I really want you to look at here is the continuity of the line around the surface, the continuity of the line by joining that and then making a planar surface between those lines. I'm able to begin to use material fills on those surfaces so that when I go to the drawings, I can easily create the quality of poche for the elements that the section is cut through. For the line drawings, I will not be using the poche, but I will want to be able to isolate those elements that the section has cut through. And when I make 2D, automatically it's giving me an entirely separate layer for just the elements that are cut through in section. A quick way of kind of isolating those and working on that cut section line as something very important would be to show only this layer. Some of these things which are repeating, you may not want to sort of construct a surface on every single object. So I did make my heavy outline and filled it with a surface. I turned off, when I'm choosing just the surface, I've got the option to show the ISO curves, and I definitely do not want to show the ISO curves. So when I select just the surface, you will see that I have turned off show the ISO curves. If I have it on, I'm going to get something in my drawing that I don't want. So it's over here in the properties. When I've selected the surface, I can just turn off those ISO curves, and that's going to help the visual reading quite a bit. So let's move over here. Right, you can see the kinds of corrections I needed to make. I needed to use some trim functions. Fillet can also be a really nice way of beginning to kind of continue objects. So I'm going to hit enter and select that. Fillet helps me kind of clean things up. I can actually click on this object and it will create a clean corner. So that's also a really nice feature to have when you're kind of moving around and trying to sort of correct some of these overlapping lines. So I've jumped back into a different drawing, and I just wanted to show you, this is the drawing before. Again, this is the section, but you can see that I'm not getting a real clear indication of the section. I've got a lot of overlapping elements because of the way I constructed the model. So this little tower element was constructed on its own and extruded. So those lines of that element are still showing up. If I had booleaned my site together, I probably would not be seeing all that evidence. But because I didn't, I'm going to want to trim those out. Just like we experienced with the laser cutter, the profile section in a section drawing really wants to be just the outline. I don't want all this residual information. So I wanted to jump in and show you a couple other things that you'll want to think about is whether or not you want to merge the poche of the site with the poche of the building. So what I mean by poche is a kind of color field or a color filled section. So the points of the wall, I might poche a black fill, essentially. If it were an Illustrator, it would be a fill. In RHINO, I'm going to create a surface and give it a black paint material, and that would be my poche. So a couple different choices you can make about the poche. One is to really merge the ground conditions with the poche of the building. So the nice effect that that gives you is really the sense that the building is growing out of the site, because we read the ground as the same kind of condition, same materiality really as the solids of the building. That can be a nice effect. The other way that you can draw this is to leave an additional line of the building within the poche condition. So we would poche both the ground and the walls, but we would still have this outer line showing that there is a difference between the building and the ground. And either one of them has a kind of role to play. I really like where the two of them get merged, but in my editing, I went ahead and left them separate to show you. But you can see as I zoom in, I've got a lot of residual information. I've got some missing information, right? So these are my mullions, but I'm kind of missing the closure. I've got the bird cage where I cut through, and I've got some sections that intersected, others that did not, but a lot of kind of loose information that I'm going to need to clean up. So I wanted to show you that, and then to show you what it looks like cleaned up. Now, as I said, I have kept the outline of the building, and this may be useful if I wanted to show the foundation conditions or something else. I could leave that line and it would show that, yes, they have something in common, but they are not the same thing. And I went back and cleaned up all of these little mullion type bars in my birdcage. And I also created surfaces. But you can see that I've cut through the glass, I've cut through the mullions, and I've given them all a surface and a paint color, and that really helps the reading. Even if I had none of the background information, which sometimes when you're early in the design, you may not have any, we still get quite a bit of information about the building from this little section. I am missing, of course, the canopy, which I'm going to want, and the profiles of these sort of mullions that exist on the envelope. But when I turn that layer back on, I will get some of that information back.